Hi, everyone. This is Monica Shimonik. I'm the founder of Moms Unshackled. Happy Friday. Happy Friday evening. It's quite late. I usually try to do these at 4 p.m. Eastern time, and now it's something like, I don't know, I think it's past 9 p.m. now. So I'm very, very late to the game. But the purpose of life is to show up for your things, even if you are fashionably late. So here I am, and we are going to get going. So the title of this live stream is, I had it worded perfectly. Okay, stop writing a mommy resume for the court. I really struggled with this title. I was going to say something like, stop writing the audition script for the court, blah, 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 blah. So I came up with mommy resume because I think a lot of you will be able to identify with this. So how many of you have done this? You're a mom, and dads have this as well, but this is going to be about moms. How many of you have done this? You have sat in the courtroom and your lawyer might have put you on the stand at one point and started asking you all these questions about your accolades and your credentials and your life accomplishments. Okay, the lawyer might have put you on the stand and asked you to talk about where you went to college, what your degree was in, your work experience, what did you do before you had children, what kind of awards have you won at work, did you win any awards with the PTO? Were you featured in the newspaper for leading the brownie troop to selling the most Girl Scout cookies? What else? Do you what other accomplishments? I know when I was on the stand in my trial, my series of trials, I've had 3 trials now. I remember having to describe in detail my accolades and my knowledge and my education. Okay, and so I get that. I guess judges want a background of the parents or whatever. I personally don't see why, but let's just say that that's relevant. One thing that just really annoys me is that lawyers want their clients, their litigants or whatever, to talk in detail about how special they are because they won awards and they have these credentials and these educational merits and all this other stuff. So what kind of message is that delivering? That is basically saying, my client's a good person, my client's smart, my client should keep her rights or his rights to his or her children. So my question is, I always wanted to ask, what if I didn't have those things? What if I never went to college? What if I dropped out of high school? I did drop out of high school, by the way. What if I never volunteered at my child's school or sold the brownie cookies? And what if I didn't cook? What if I wasn't a good cook? Because that's another thing they do. They say, like, do you cook dinner at home? What kind of meals do you cook your kids? What if I wasn't a very good cook? What if I just had to do microwave dinners all the time because I wasn't savvy in the kitchen? What if I didn't teach my kids how to sew or how to garden? So the reason I'm talking about this is because we have this fake notion that we have to be like admirable people in order to keep rights to our own children. We believe that if we have the right degrees and the right amount of education and we have the right amount of friends and we know the right people and we sit on the right committees and the boards and all this other stuff, that we're going to have a better shot at keeping our parental rights than a parent who doesn't do any of those things. So I find it difficult to participate in this, and I've had discussions with my attorneys in the past. I said, I don't feel comfortable talking about the fact that I have a college degree and that my degree is in nutrition, because my attorneys have always said, it looks good to the court that you have a degree in nutrition. Why? What if my degree was in like sanitation, okay, or something completely non-parental, or accounting? Like, who, why is that? Why is me having a nutrition degree going to give me an upper hand in this trial? By the way, it didn't work. I still don't have my son. So me having a nutrition degree has never worked. So my point is, are parents with accolades and degrees more deserving of their fundamental rights to be a parent? And so I take great issue with that, because it's when we allow our attorneys to do this to us, or when attorneys do this with their clients, they are pushing this value system into the court, and they're actually enabling the judge to determine best interest, which is against our constitutional rights. So when we talk about what great people we are and all this other stuff, we're basically putting our value system into the court, into a court where a value system, it really isn't a legal issue. There's no legal grounds for which kind of value system we have, because that's something that's protected under the First Amendment, provided that your value system is lawful, okay? Assuming that whatever your value system you have, whatever education you have or don't have, assuming that all of that is legal, there's no place for it in family law, okay? So I'm going to go to the next segment of this live stream, and I'm going to ask you something. How many of you moms have turned down a job promotion, or turned down, or didn't get a new job that you wanted? If there was a job opening that you really wanted and you chose not to get it, you chose not to pursue it, or you chose not to buy your dream home, or you chose not to move to a town that you wanted to live in. How many of you moms have purposely remained single when you wanted a partner, you wanted to date, you wanted to get married a second time, or maybe you wanted another child? Maybe you're 35 and you still have some fertility left and you want to have a second or third or fourth child. How many of you have not pursued a romantic partner on purpose, and remained single? How many of you were in a relationship, but not with your child's father, but a different guy or gal? How many of you have stayed in a non-committed long-term relationship but didn't progress to marriage on purpose? How many of you have been married to a second partner, second spouse or third spouse or whatever, someone who's not your child's parent? How many of you have stayed married for the second time and chose not to get that divorce that you really wanted to divorce that person, but you chose not to? And you did all these things. You didn't get the house you wanted. You didn't allow the job promotion. You didn't do you didn't follow the path that you feel like you were chose to go on with your relationships. You either stayed single, you stayed married, whatever, all because you didn't want the court to be upset. You were afraid that if you did all these things, or one of these things, that the court would find out and you would lose access to your children, or rights to your children, or you would lose your case to get your children back if they were already taken away from you. How many of you have been, you had your children taken away 3, 4, 5 years ago, you want to go back to ask the court to get your kids back, and while you're in that litigation the second or third time around to get your children back, to restore what was taken away, and then an opportunity comes up during that litigation, during that like 1 or 2 year litigation, you get a job offer, you get your dream house comes up on the market, and you want to buy that house. All this stuff, these opportunities for growth and change in your life come up during litigation, and you choose to suppress your visions and the things that you're supposed to be pursuing in your life, that is in your destiny, okay? And you have purposely held back and didn't lean into these opportunities because you were afraid that the court would look badly upon you for doing these things. The court would say you're unstable. Oh, you were a secretary for 10 years and now you're a salesperson for a whole nother company and you've only been here for 2 months. You're afraid that if that comes up in court, that you're going to lose access to your kids. You're afraid that if you meet a new partner, a new guy or gal, that the court is going to see that you're unstable. Oh, you have a new partner. How long have you been with this new partner? Oh, only 4 months. Well, that's not very stable. The kids are going to be harmed and you should lose your kids. Okay. I'm sure all of you have done that. I've done it. I have, oh my gosh, I've done everything I've done. Almost every big decision I made for like 7 years or 6 years was because of the court. I either did something because I thought the court would like it, something I didn't want to do. Okay. Like I was on the PTO at my son's school for a while, like 3 years or something. And I hated it. It was so boring. I didn't, I was actually, I actually found it to be very cliquey, and I just didn't fit in with any of the moms there. I mean, I never had my son with me. So they were here, you know, we get these circle of moms complaining about how difficult it is to raise their kids and how busy they are. And I'm sitting there like, yeah, I haven't seen my son in 6 days. You know, like I have so much free time and I get to sleep in every day. Like I had nothing in common with these moms. And here I am like building projects with them and fundraisers and all this other stuff. And I didn't fit in and I didn't feel comfortable there. I felt suppressed. I felt embarrassed. I felt a lot of things, but I purposely stayed in the PTO. I think it was like every Tuesday night or something, like, or a couple Tuesdays a month, where I was in these meetings for 2 hours, and it was the most boring thing I've ever done in my life. And I did that on purpose because I wanted to be able to tell the court, hey, I'm in the PTO, give me my child back. I stayed in a job that I didn't, it's not that I didn't like this job, it's just that this job, I felt like I had more gifts that I could utilize outside of this job. I felt like this job was like entry level. I felt like it was, it didn't pay all that well. And I felt like I could do more elsewhere, but I purposely stayed at this job because I was told by more than one lawyer, if you change jobs, the court's going to say you're unstable. You have to stay in the job that you're in. And I would drive like 30 miles one way to this job that didn't pay very well, wasn't all that fulfilling. And, but I stayed there anyway because I thought the court would see me as unstable if I, God forbid, got a better job. I have stayed in a relationship that wasn't serving me for a very long time, way longer than I would have otherwise, because I thought if I suddenly became single, the court would be like, oh my gosh, she was with this person and now she's no longer with him, and you know, whatever, she's not stable. She doesn't know how to hold down a relationship. That was like the big thing. There's clearly something wrong with her because she couldn't even stay in this relationship. What else? A lot of you moms will have these desires and these dreams for yourselves, and you're going to repress that. You're going to not utilize, you know, what you believe you should be doing with your life. You're not going to move forward with your life. You're going to purposely stay in the same place. You're going to stay stagnant and stuck on purpose to make somebody else happy. What if you're a mom who wants to learn how to fly planes, and it's always been your dream to learn how to fly planes? Okay, one of my closest friends actually just started flying airplanes, and she takes selfies of herself like flying airplanes, and I'm like, oh my God. But she is so happy. Like she's like, this is awesome. And I'm thinking, and the first thing I thought of was, I go, oh my gosh, what if she was a mother stuck in the court system who took flight lessons? They would be all over that. They'd be like, oh my God, you're going to fly a plane. You're too adventurous. You're selfish because you have hobbies, and moms with hobbies that are in the family court are selfish. You know, you're spending hundreds of dollars on flight lessons when you could be saving for your kids' college. The court is going to say, you could be putting your child in soccer with that money, or you could send your kid away to soccer camp or cheerleading camp with that money. And instead you're dumping hundreds of dollars into flight lessons. This is what the courts do. So what happens is, and this isn't just a, okay, I'm going to live small for like a year, and then once all this court stuff is done, I'm going to go and live the life I'm supposed to live with my children. It's not like that. If you're in the court, you're probably not going to be just in the court for a year. You wouldn't even be watching this if you were in the court for a year. um, you could be in the court for 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm going in my 9th year, and this is a big chunk of your life where you have the capacity and ability to create new roads in your life, new pathways to like your future, the future that you're designed to manifest and live out. So you are going to live small, and you're going to be like dimmed. What I mean by dimmed is like, I think it was Bernie Siegel. He's awesome, by the way. So what Bernie Siegel says is, he says everybody is born with light. Okay, we're all born light workers, and what I mean by light workers is we are born with the ability and capacity to spread goodness in the world. We are destined to create love and harmony and peace in this world, and then we die, so that's what we're all born to do. And then what happens is things interrupt that natural process over time. So you could be like 4 years old, and you draw a picture that you think is really pretty, and you show it to somebody, and that person says, gosh, that's an ugly picture, or like, I'm going to take you to a therapist because this picture doesn't, this picture worries me or something. And all this little kid wants to do is be creative, and like the adults are like being critical of this child's creativity. So the child is going to remember that and just draw little houses and birds and cats and stuff for the rest of his life. He might not be this abstract Jackson Pollock artist going forward because he doesn't want to face that criticism. And adults do this to children, and they never mean anything by it. We all do it. I've done it. I've probably done it to my son. I'm probably going to do it to my 2 daughters at some point. There's going to be something I do, and something that my kids' fathers, because I have two fathers in my kids, they're going to do things that's going to suppress a little bit of that light that these kids are born with. And that's just a natural thing that adults do. We're not perfect. Okay. We're going to say something inadvertently to suppress and dim a child's light. The point is that there has to be enough going into that child's creativity and upbringing to overcome the little negativity that's going to trickle in, because a kid's not going to grow up in a sterile environment where he's only being nurtured all the time. There's always going to be like little things, like he's going to get a comment on the playground. A kid might not, choose him or her to play with them, and then that's going to cause some of that light to dim. And then things like that. Oh, these are just normal things. So we are all designed to create goodness and harmony, and it's what happens in our lifetime that attacks that and prevents that from going forward. So what we have to do is our responsibility to ourselves to shine our light anyway, and just overcome these negative things that come in, and just get out of our headspace that all this stuff that comes in that's negative is true. So just because somebody doesn't like the poem you wrote in 7th grade doesn't mean that you can't write. That doesn't mean you can't be a writer. I know a girl, she's not a girl, she's like a 48-year-old woman who is a really good singer. And she told me that she didn't sing for 25 years because when she was in her 20s in New York City, somebody told her that she needs more training. And she didn't sing for 25 years because of that. So imagine if it's not about the guy that made the comment, because he didn't mean any harm by it. But imagine if she had just heard that comment and been like, oh, I need more training. Okay, let me consider that, and not let it like be personal. It doesn't have to you don't have to use your ego every time someone, says something negative. But little kids, they don't know that. They're all about ego, But if she had just said, oh, okay, let me consider that, maybe gotten training, maybe not, but just let that kind of just roll off and just kept singing, she would have had 25 additional years of experience, and she could be like a world-class opera singer by now. Instead, she is a 48-year-old, kind of like an amateur again, So anyway, sorry to go off on a tangent there. So what I'm saying is, by these judges who make us believe that we can't be ourselves without being at risk of losing our children, they are also creating a lot of harm to your self-esteem, your sense of self-worth, your identity. Okay, that's big, because these crazy things like skydiving, flights, flying on an airplane, getting out of a relationship, all these things that are perceived as crazy and wrong and bad, that's part of you, and that's part of the path you are supposed to be walking on. Okay. All of these things, the job promotions, the relationships, the hobbies that you want to go through, that's part of who you're supposed to be as a person. Okay, you're supposed to pursue what your spirit is telling you to pursue. And so when we have like court orders that prevent us from doing things, like there's moms who have court orders that say, you can't get into a relationship and get married. You have to be with the same person for 6 months or 12 months before you're allowed to get married again. We have court orders that say that. There's a lot of moms that have that order. There are court orders that say that if you have a new partner, that partner can't meet your children for a period of time. So I'm going to tell you, the court has no authority to interfere with your private relationships. And if you want to marry somebody after meeting them for 3 months or 6 months or whatever, that's your prerogative, and that's your part of your destiny. Okay, providing you're not just getting married just to not be lonely. But even if you did, that turns out to be a mistake. That mistake is part of your destiny. That mistake is part of who you are meant to become. Okay, so we are constantly being told not to do things, not to change jobs, not to do anything. Basically, we're told not to be ourselves. We are told not to shine and be bright in our lives. Now, some of you might be saying, well, you're a mother now, so you need to not think about yourself, you need to think about your children. So if you can't date for 6 months, or you can't get married for 12 months, or you can't get a job promotion or take up flying or whatever, if you can't do those things and the judge is telling you not to do those things, then that's what you get, because you had children and you knew what you were getting into and you had children, and it's not about you. I'm going to tell you that you are wrong. I say this with much love. That is not true. We don't become non-people because we have children. Our children benefit from us pursuing our dreams and shining and being the person we're supposed to be. Our children benefit directly from that. 100% directly benefit from that. So if your child grows up and just sees mom living under somebody else's standards, that is teaching your child that we live in a slavery, in a slave culture. And it's teaching your child other parents get to do those things, but not my parent, because my parent is divorced. My buddy at school, Johnny, his parents are allowed to go mountain climbing and go to rock concerts. But my mom can't do that, or my dad can't do that, because my dad's divorced. And because they're divorced, they have a different set of rules, different set of restrictions, and they're basically second-class parents. Therefore, I'm a second-class child. Now they're not going to think that in that wording, but as a 7-year-old kid, when they find out that their parents are living under somebody else's standards, they're going to learn that they are not as special as kids who have married parents. So I'm going to pause and see if there's any comments about this. And so far, I don't see anything. So that's fine. I'm going to keep going. This is a big topic for me. So there's something else. Court orders and judges, they prevent us from talking to our children about certain subjects. This is really big. Actually, about 10 minutes before I got on this live stream, I found out there's a mother who I just met her today on Facebook. She is being prevented from talking to her children about vaccines. Okay. In other words, I think her kids are probably like at the age where they're getting like hepatitis B shots, HPV shots, all sorts of things. So the mother is not allowed, by court order, she's not allowed to tell her children about these vaccines. And she believes that the vaccines are harmful, and I share that belief, and I know that's a controversial topic, so we won't go there, but she's not allowed to share her concerns with her children that she believes that the vaccines are harmful. She's prohibited from having a discussion with her own children in her own home about her children's health and their bodies. And like, I believe she's prohibited from talking about sex with her children. And STDs, that kind of subject matter. So I didn't read the whole thing that she wrote me, but that's my gist, is that she has a permanent gag order on what she's allowed to disclose or discuss with her children. So the government has zero, and I mean zero, like this much authority to tell you what you're allowed to say to your own children in your own home. The government cannot put restrictions on your speech. If you want to know more about all this, go to fixedfamilycourts.com. There is a lot of content in there about First Amendment rights and how the family court has no authority to impose restrictions on your speech with your children in your home. So now, married parents, they can talk to their kids about anything they want. They can talk to their kids about drugs. They can talk to their kids about sex, homosexuality, anything. They could have any conversation with their kids. But when you're divorced, there's a lot of parents that have a lot of restrictions on what they're allowed to say to their children. Completely unconstitutional. It's a violation of equal protection. We are all guaranteed protection of the laws. We are guaranteed protection of our First Amendment rights. The government cannot infringe on that. So the other thing I want to point out is parenting choices are heavily regulated by the government when you're divorced, not when you're married. If you're married, you could do almost anything you want. When you're divorced, suddenly the court feels that they have the authority to impose certain parenting styles on you. For me, I was prohibited from co-sleeping with my son was 6 at the time. I was court ordered to not co-sleep with my son, okay? Because it came out that I let my son share the bed with me when he had a nightmare, and I made the parental choice to share the bed with him so that he wouldn't be scared, okay? When courts impose restrictions on lifestyle choices, parenting choices, that is a violation of the First Amendment. And the fact of the matter is they are not imposing the same standards on married parents, okay? This is big. You have to like really think about that and get into that headspace. Why am I being told not to do something simply because I'm no longer married to my child's parent? And also, when courts impose parenting restrictions, potentially that can impose on some cultural discrimination. So I know in some cultures it's common to share the bed with your parent. I know I used to live with 2 girls. They were both from Laos, and they told me that females share the bed with their mothers until the females get married and move out. So like if you're 20 or 25 years old and you're not married yet, you share the bed with your mother and your sister. Okay, so all the females share one bed. So, and that's perfectly normal in Laos. So what if you're Laotian, you come to the United States, you get married, and then you get divorced and you have children, and your judge is telling you that you can't bed share with your daughter? That's really, really discriminatory. So these are big things. These aren't like little annoyances that the court puts on you. These are big things because they put impediments on the person that you're meant to become. Okay. So, and this isn't just I'm just going to grin and bear it for a year, 2 years. This is long term. If you're in the system for 9 years, like I am, and your child ages out, you're going to forget who you were. You're going to be so used to living under the court's rules and keeping yourself small and not expanding, not growing. And by the time your child ages out, you're not gonna remember that you had visions for yourself. You're not gonna remember that. You're not gonna remember that you wanted to take up, I don't know, bungee jumping or whatever. I don't know any parents that do bungee jumping. I think after a certain age, I would think that would mess up your skeleton. But let's just say that that's what you want to do. Let's say you want to do, skydiving or some crazy sport, and you're not doing it because you're afraid the court's going to judge you. When your child ages out, you're going to forget that you ever even wanted to do that. you're going to forget that you wanted to change careers and be a freelance writer, you know. For me, I I testified at some point that I wanted to run my own business, which, by the way, I have now for 6.5 years. But it must have been right when my business opened, because I testified that I either had just started my own business or I was about to start my own business, and the court just ripped me apart for that. They said I'm not considering my child's needs. I'm not taking into consideration the market, and like how volatile the market is, and how it's risky to run your own business, and how dare I think that I should be taking these kind of risks when I have a child, and blah 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 blah. Like the court just went crazy, and I was actually found in contempt for all that, but I don't remember the details. But um, yeah, I was found in contempt because I think I was told I have to earn a certain amount of money, and I wasn't, because I had just started my business. So we're talking like this, these are serious infringements of our ability and our right to just expand and have the lifestyle that we think is best for ourselves. Because I'm telling you, I'm going to say this again, when you are living to your greatest potential as a mother, your children directly benefit from that. Okay, it's not selfish. It's not selfish. Children thrive when their parents are thriving. When mom is thriving, the child will naturally thrive. When mom is living small and stuck in a box and depressed and suppressed, how can that child possibly grow and expand to be the person he's meant to be? So by proxy, the restrictions on the parents are going to cause the child to also feel restricted and probably guilty, or feeling bad about himself or herself. So this is not selfish. It's actually in your child's best interest to expand and be the person you're meant to be. So what else? So going back to the topic, like the title, stop writing a mommy resume for the court. What I want you to consider if you're in court is you don't have to be super special and super awesome to keep your kids. Okay, you could be the most boring person in the world. Like think of like Bert from Sesame Street, like reading books about oatmeal and reading books about pigeons and playing checkers. I'm just trying to think of like a really plain person. That's the only thing I could think of, because I think no matter what, everybody is like super interesting. I'm such a junkie for like personalities, and like I'm always like trying to learn about people. And even when I was a little kid, like I probably looked like a little kid stalker, but I would ask like adults, like, what kind of books do you read? What kind of music do you listen to? What kind of TV shows do you watch? Why do you watch that TV show? My mom used to read like crime thrillers, and I used to be like, why do you read those kinds of books? And so we are meant to be interesting people, all of us, okay? And you should not have to restrict yourself from your hobbies, your dreams, your gifts, anything like that. And you don't have to fit into a box to keep your rights to your child, because all these decisions that we make, hobbies, relationships, where we live, who we live with, how we parent our children, what style do we use? Do we give our kids an allowance? Do we not give our kids an allowance? All those parenting choices are unique, and they're special because we are designed to put our own unique thumbprint on the world. That's what Bernie Siegel says. We all have something valuable to contribute, and however, interesting or not interesting, or if you have a lot of degrees or you have no degrees, you have no education, you can't even read. Let's say you read at a third grade level, you still have something valuable to contribute. You still have something special to give the world and give your children. So don't let the court restrict that. So what you need to do, like how do we solve this problem? Have a conversation with your attorney about this. If your attorney says anything like, oh, that looks good to the court if you do that. If you go to therapy, that looks good to the court. What if you don't like therapy? What if in order to heal, let's just say, okay, I'm gonna go on a limb here. So this is called tourmaline. I always forget the name of this. This is a stone, and some people believe if you hold certain stones in your hand, you can get healing benefits. Okay, now someone gave this to me, so it's not like I went out and bought it, but let's just say that I choose to hold rocks in my hand to heal. Let's say that I have arthritis and I want to hold a rock to heal from my arthritis. And I'm in court, and the court is, and the other lawyer is like, you're disabled and you can't lift anything, so how could you have custody of your kids because you have arthritis and you can't get your kids out of a burning house. This is a real life example. That's why I came up with this. A mother actually lost custody of her kids for having arthritis because the other side convinced the court that if the kids were stuck in a burning house, she wouldn't be able to rescue them. True story. What if I said, yep, I have arthritis, but I hold stones in my hand to heal? Okay. So the court has done this. I've seen it. They have said your choice on how you heal yourself and how you manage your issues is unacceptable, and you need to go to therapy. You need to do this. You need to do that. You need to have this kind of treatment for yourself and not that kind of treatment. So maybe some people want to hold stones in their hand to get rid of depression. What if you want to do Reiki to heal from anxiety? Or you want to write books to deal with stress, okay, instead of going to therapy. Well, guess what? The family court throws people in therapy all the time, does not honor a person's choice to pursue whatever treatment they see fit. In fact, they hold that against you, okay? So you need to tell your attorney to defend you when the court tries to place you in a box, whether it's how you manage your health, how you manage your relationships, where you live, all that stuff. So what can you do? You can, if you already have these orders, like, you might be thinking like, well, I'm stuck, I've already been to court. They already said I can't do this and that, and I have to do things this way, and I'm stuck. You can file a motion to vacate that portion of the order. A motion to vacate, I believe, does not have statute of limitations. I could be wrong. You could look that up. I'm not an attorney. This is not legal advice, but you can file a motion to vacate. You can say that the court does not have jurisdiction. I believe jurisdictional claims have no statutes of limitations. So you can say the court has no jurisdiction to tell me that I'm not allowed to have a relationship until I've known the person 6 months, or the court has no jurisdiction to say that I can't co-sleep, or that I can't talk to my child about sex or drugs or whatever. Another big thing, the courts always tell they tell parents, don't talk about the court case with your kids, okay? You might decide that as a fit parent that it's best for your children to understand what's happening. Because what if your kids are like, Mom, Dad, why don't I ever see you? Do you think a kid will never ask that question? You don't think an 11-year-old kid's going to be like, why do I only see one parent 4 days a month, and the other parent I see 26 days a month? Why is that? Okay, of course a kid's going to ask. They're going to be like, Mom, Dad, why don't I ever see you? How come you're not allowed to come to my doctor's appointments? How come you're not allowed to come to my school appointments? You have the right to say, oh, because a judge says I can't. And you could tell your child all about your opinions of the family court system. If you believe your orders were illegal, which they probably were, 99.9% chance they were illegally imposed on you, you can tell your child, yes, we are in a corrupt family court, and the system is broken. It's broken in all 50 states, and this has to be fixed. You are allowed to share that with your child. I started telling my son when he was, I think, 7 years old. I think he was 7. I use age-appropriate language to explain to him why he never sees me. I had no choice. In 2013, my parenting time with my child was sliced in half overnight. And I had to tell my child why. Like, I'm not going to see you on Wednesdays anymore, or I'm not going to see you on these days anymore. This is why, because a judge said I can't see you. That's your First Amendment right. That's your duty to teach your child your value system. If you believe the courts are corrupt, that's your value system. You deserve to pass. You have the right to pass that value system on to your child. Okay. You have the right to educate your child. Okay. Teachers educate your children. Why can't you? So when a court tells you that you can't talk about the case with your child, you could file a motion to vacate that order, citing lack of jurisdiction. You could say the court has no jurisdiction to limit my First Amendment rights to free speech. And you could also say the court doesn't have authority or jurisdiction to limit my my choices on relationships, my choices on my career, all that stuff, lifestyle choices. The court has no jurisdiction, and you could ask to vacate those orders. This is only if you want to stir things up and make your statement to the court on the record that you disagree with what they're doing. You don't have to go and make waves. You might decide that it's best to just carry out whatever the court is telling you to do. But the consequence to that is you are going to be living a very small life, and you might forget who you are. And you're probably in your 30s or 40s or early 50s. These are the best years of your life. Do you really want to live these amazing years on a playing on a smaller scale than everybody else? Okay, why should your next door neighbor you know, have the life she wants and you can't have the life you want? Why are you, you know, brought into a second class status? These are things you need to think critically about and get into the right headspace. So, and also consider the impact this has on your mental health, your emotional health. How do you feel about yourself? Do you feel expansive? And do you feel like you, do you have identity issues? Do you have self-worth issues? So ask yourself this: do you know who you are as a person? What would you be doing if you didn't have this family court stuff? You know, so just think about those things, and think about the implications of of asking the court to make best interest decisions for your child, because the reason the judges do this, they hide behind the best interest statute. They say it's in the child's best interest to not learn about sex and drugs from the mother or the father. It's in the child's best interest for the mother or father to not change jobs or change careers or move into a new house. All these things that the judges put on you, the GALs, all these things, they hide behind best interest. They say it's best for the child to not have this kind of parent. You know, the parent that you're meant to be is not best for your children, so you have to be a different kind of parent. Okay, let me check to see if there's any questions, and there's none. I hope this resonates with you. It's a very big topic, and I went over by about 12 minutes. I try to keep these down to 30. If you want to talk about, you know, what your potential is, what is your God-given potential, what is your thumbprint on this planet, what is your light? You're a light worker. All people are light workers. What is your purpose on this planet? What would you be doing if you weren't prohibited from carrying out your life mission? If you want to talk about those things, you can private message me, and you can just say, I want to talk about these things with you. I offer free discovery sessions to all moms who believe that they could benefit from learning about what their true potential is. That's part of what I do. Among a bunch of things, that's part of what I do, and it's a big part, is discovering who you truly are and who you're meant to be. Okay, so I'm going to be ending this live stream, but please private message me or start a conversation in the comment section. Okay, I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. I'm actually going to go to the store now and buy some ingredients, because my son wants pie. Like, he literally was like, I want pie, and I'm like, okay. So I love that kid so much. He's my whole life. He's 12, and he is literally the reason I do everything. You know, like I'm sitting here doing this live stream because of my son. Okay, I have every choice I've made for the past like 9 years was because of this family court experience, and I have chosen to shine very brightly, you know, in spite of the abuse and the corruption that has been forced into my family. So if you have any questions about any of this stuff, private message me or just start a chat here in the chat window. But I encourage you to book a discovery session with me. Okay, I love you all, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye.